technology and iPads and iPhones is they just punch buttons and do things. They play. So I really recommend that we become more childlike with our cameras on our phones and we play. It's virtually impossible to break it. So if you drop it, you might break it, but if punching buttons, you really can't break the camera on your phone. So I would really recommend play and experiment. And then the next thing, and I'm going to go through these one by one, but I'll read through them right now. But clean the lenses for crystal clear photos. Then turn off flash, use natural light. Set the focus to ensure subject is sharp. Adjust the exposure for perfect brightness levels. Learn to use modes, portrait and panorama. Edit your photos with auto adjust and crop. Edit with various filters, including black and white. Use grid lines to balance your shot for the rule of thirds. That's a really standard composition rule. And then focus on one subject. Simplify your compositions. So as with other cameras that we've had in our lives, the cell phone camera is the same. Then unless you pay attention to what you're photographing and look at the composition of that photograph and look to simplify your composition, you're going to have messy, crazy photographs. You had them before and you'll have them again. So you need those same ways of creating a really strong photograph. It's just a different tool to get there. So now I'm going to go through, and so number two is pretty easy. I carry around with me one of those cloths that you can use to clean lenses, to clean glasses, I carry it with me all the time. So I am constantly cleaning my lens because my fingers get on it and I end up with fingerprints. So if this looks familiar to you, on the left, if your photographs are having that kind of fuzzy look and you're like, why aren't they sharp and crisp? If you look, you may have a thumbprint on your lens. So I really recommend that you are really conscious of keeping your lenses clean. Then this is the flash. I really recommend that you turn it off. Don't leave it on auto, don't leave it on. Take the flash off of your camera. The way you can do this on an iPhone is that where you see that little lightning bolt, you will touch it and it will bring up this image right here that you see, and you set it to off. And when off goes yellow, that means it's. So I really recommend, and then if you need flash at some point, then you can go and turn it on. But the camera will do amazing things without it. So this is a screenshot from an earlier camera. Some of you have newer cameras. If you have 10s and 11s, it's going to look a little bit different. But the principle is the same. To set the focus of what you're taking. Now, sometimes I have to tell you, sometimes when you point your camera, your cell phone camera, at an image, it chooses the right look. It is exactly what you want, and that's great. But sometimes, in the right exposure and everything's good. But sometimes you want to focus on something in particular. So you touch your screen wherever you want the focus to be, and wherever you want the exposure of the light. So if something is in shadow and you want to bring that up a little bit, or if something is over bright and you want to adjust, and you want that to be the focus, whatever it is, you touch where you want it to be the lighting and the focus. If you hold it down as you touch, if you hold it down, there will appear this AEAF lock, which means auto exposure, autofocus lock. And that means that if you move the camera just a little bit, it's still keeping that exposure and that focal length of the focus. You can also then more easily use your finger to touch the sun that shows up on the right-hand side and move it up and down to adjust the auto exposure. So right here, you see my cursor right here, you go to this little sun and you move it up and down, and you can actually change the exposure of the image. So the instructions are here. I know, Dorothy, are we recording this? Yes? I can't hear you.
Yes, we are. I started a little late.
Okay.
We are recording, yes.
Okay, so you can come back to this and see this later. But these are the step-by-step instructions of how to do that auto exposure and autofocus lock. And then the next thing is to use portrait and to use panorama. And portrait has gotten, for iPhones, I don't know about the Androids at this point, but for
it's not as good for Android.
Not okay. So for iPhones, portrait has gotten quite complicated with the newer models. They've in the 11 they've added, and I think 10 too. They've added all sorts of things to use with portrait. So I really recommend that you go out and find a YouTube video that steps you through using portrait. It's much too complicated for me to cover in this, in this talk today, but there's all sorts of fun things to be able to do with portrait. And again, what that means is that you're focusing on a person or an object, and that's what's in focus, and behind goes into this out of focus, what's called in photography bokeh, a bokeh effect, where it's nice and creamy in the background and you're really focused on the person or the object. I shot this through glass and really wanted to get rid of, this was in a museum, and I was really happy to be able to use the portrait mode to get this image of this in the museum. And then, let me see here. Yeah, I don't have instructions on using Pano because that's also a bit complicated to do in this kind of situation. But when you, at the bottom of your camera, you have these different modes. Portrait's there. If you go to the right, you'll see Pano. And I would also recommend looking for a YouTube video for panorama on an iPhone, and it will step you through. YouTube is a wonderful resource to find those kinds of videos to step you through these different things. But the Pano, just one of the tricks that I like to tell people is when you hold your camera vertically and you pan to do the panorama, you start it, you move it, you can move it either right or left. The arrow on the left, you'll move to the right. If you touch the right side of your screen, the arrow will flip and then you can pan to the left. So when you hold your camera, your phone camera vertical, you get a horizontal pano. If you switch your phone to being horizontal and you pan vertically with a horizontal phone, you end up with a vertical pano, so panorama. So it's a really good thing for doing the inside of churches, for example, because it's very hard sometimes to get a good image of an altar in a church. But if you do a panorama going vertically, you can sometimes get some interesting effects with that. Or buildings in general, you can do vertical panels. So now number 7 is editing your photos. Now I have to say, and I know Androids are keeping up with this, and also with Androids, one of the things you can do with an Android is you can easily go to something called Snapseed to edit when you're using an Android phone. Snapseed is an editing program that is now been owned by Google for quite a while, and it's got amazing kinds of edit tools with it. In iPhone, you can't easily go to Snapseed. You have to open it separately. But what they've done is on the iPhone last fall, when they made the big operating system upgrade to 13.1 plus, or 13 plus, and it's now, who knows what number it is. I should know, but I haven't checked recently. But it's, they made incredible changes to the editing program on the phone. So I recommend that you go and you explore. If you look here at the bottom, for one thing, just go and do auto and see what an auto adjust does to your image. And then the other thing is over here, crop. Crop is to go in and do crop, but these are, and then along here, if you go to the right, you'll see all the various different components of editing that are included in auto. So I've clicked auto, and if you see this yellow part here, that means the auto adjustment made that adjustment to that factor. And as you go along, you'll see what the auto did. And then you can do more. And it's got shadow, and it's got highlights, and it has vignette, and they've added so many things to what you can adjust in the editing program that's on your phone, that's native to your phone. And then within cropping, if you click the symbol right here for cropping, you can automatically adjust the horizon line. This is where you will find the vertical and horizontal tilt to adjust here in the cropping. You'll find the ability to go in and to do a vertical adjustment in the cropping function right here. And that is what will give you the ability to change the look of a building that's slanted. Let's see what, oh, here. So right here, this one, okay, so this right here is touching this one, gives you the horizontal. It automatically straightens your horizon line. This one right here is when you touch this one and you go back and forth on the grid below, it will change the positioning, the vertical positioning. And this one, actually, if you've shot something a little bit off as far as the plane is a little bit slanted, you can change the horizontal position of an image with this one. You can kind of get it back into a more, if it's skewed a little bit as you were taking it. And then up here at the top is reset. You can start all over and just click reset. So one of the things with the horizontal, when you open it in crop, sometimes it will automatically, it will recognize that your horizon is off, and it will automatically change it. For the most part, it's pretty intelligent, but sometimes it isn't. And so then that's when you can do reset and you can kind of look at it yourself. So there's a whole, also going out onto YouTube and finding other tutorials to get into the nitty-gritties of all of this. And just playing, quite honestly, just playing with it, going in and taking an image and playing with all this stuff, you'll see quite a bit on your own. And one of the things, this revert down here, all edits that you do on your images, you can revert back to the original image. So you are not permanently changing the image. You are layering edits onto the image, and they're held in the phone, in the memory of the phone, but the original image is sitting there underneath all of this editing, and you can go back to it at any time. And then also in editing, and so, this photos, this little icon right here, all of these things I'm showing, the editing here, and now the filters and the cropping, you get to all of that through photos. So I'm hoping most of you know this, that you get to it by photos. When you click into photos, there's something called edit. You click edit, and that's where you get to this. So then filters is right here, and you can go along and you can take an image to black and white, different kinds of black and white. You can warm it up. You can do different things with it. You can play with this and see what kinds of effects you can get. So now grid lines. So this is something some of you may have done this. Some of you, this might be new to you, but you can add grid lines to your camera so that when you're taking the photograph, you have these grid lines on the camera, and it helps you with getting the horizon line straight, or for putting things in a composition, so you're utilizing the rule of thirds. And the way you get this is you go to Settings, Camera, and turn Grid on. So that's where you find it. So I leave this grid on my camera for taking photographs all the time. And then this is my last tip, which is focus on one subject and simplify your composition. So really look to see what it is you want to focus on, and really look at the photograph and simplify it as much as possible. When you're taking crowd shots are really hard. Oftentimes landscapes are very hard. If you're doing a landscape, there's a way of trying to get the forefront, the middle front, and the far distant so that you have some interest through the landscape. But really look to find, simplify your composition and look to try to communicate with the photograph what it is you're trying to get the person to see. So that is it, and now I can open it up to Q&A. Question and answer.
So if you, oh, here, I'll stop sharing.
So stop share.
Yeah. So I think I should talk just for a little minute, and this is to explain how we will run the question period now. All of you, at somewhere on your screen, ordinarily at the bottom, you will see something that says participants. Click that, please, if you see it. It might be on the top of iPad screens. Click it. And then at the bottom of that participants, what you will see is you'll have one choice there that says raise hand. So if you raise hand, someone has done this already. Ellie Vivino has raised her hand, and she has gone to the top of the list now because she clicked on that and raised her hand. So if anyone else has a question, click on it. See, now other people have moved themselves to the top of the list by raising their hands. And some people just, I guess, quit, they took themselves off the list again. So what we can do now is we can start. I can see who's at the top of the list. What I'll do is unmute the person who's at the top of the list and ask that person to ask the question. And then while she's asking it, so I'm just unmuting Ellie here. Ellie, I've clicked unmute you. You are unmuting yourself at the same, there we go. The one problem is don't unmute yourself also, because then we start playing back and forth. You unmute and I think I'm unmuting and I mute you and it goes back and forth in the circle. So Ellie has just unmuted herself. So what's your question, Ellie?
My question is about how when we transfer the pictures from the iPhone to the computer, the pictures are so huge. Is there a way to make them smaller all at once before transferring, or in the computer when we transfer? Is there a way that we can select 3 or 4 and then resize them smaller just for the sake of storage, that we can do at once instead of going one by one?
Well, when you do that, you know, you lose the ability of having that larger image again. So I personally want that full image to be on my computer. But if you want a smaller image, you can in the export. Well, if you email it to yourself, you're given the ability to do different size files. How do you transfer it to your computer?
With a USB.
Okay, so you're doing it that way. And do you have a PC? You don't have you have a PC. So one of the things you can do is you can open up those images in photo on your PC and you can resize them there. If you're doing it through a USB, no, you will move them over, they will be full size, and you have to go into some kind of program to resize them.
Yeah, but it's one by one, right?
Yeah, and that's photos in Windows 10 Photos, you can resize them there, or you can use other different kinds of programs.
I appreciate and I love your pictures. Really
Thank
beautiful.
you. Thank you. Thanks.
So the next
So now it's Sharon.
Sharon, and I'm
so
just
Natasha, I see your hand, but you need to raise your hand on participants.
And Dorothy, do you mean Sharon Beckus or Sharon's iPad?
Sharon Beckus.
Okay, great. Hi, thanks, Kim. I found I have an easier way if I download the photos that I've taken on my iPod. I take it my iPod or iPad, either way, and they go to my laptop, then I can edit it much easier on the laptop because you can see all of the features. You can really you can see it it's much easier to do it that way for me instead of doing it on a smaller device.
So do you have a Mac? Is your laptop a Mac? Okay. So you have pretty much access to the same tools.
Yeah,
so,
it's easier on the laptop.
Yes, and actually I prefer being on my iPad. So I do a lot of editing on my iPad because you're right. Some of the editing on the iPhone, it gets to be pretty small.
And then the one question I do have is I didn't understand how you got that vase out of focus in the behind. I didn't understand the instructions on that.
So you go at the mode at the bottom. So on the camera,
yes.
At the bottom, there's all the different modes. There's video, there's time lapse, there's photo, and one of them is portrait. So you click portrait, and in portrait, depending on your phone, what iPhone do you have?
I actually don't have I don't have an iPhone. I have an iPad and an iPod, so I don't know if portrait's on there.
It is. Well, that's a good question. I don't know. iPod. Oh, iPad.
iPod.
I don't have an iPad, but I have.
And I have an iPad.
And I wonder if I'm just pulling mine up.
I'm going to open up mine too.
Well, nope. So my iPad, which is fairly new, does not have it.
Right.
And one of the requirements to have portrait is to have 2 lenses, or to have, I think it's the XR, maybe has 1 lens and they have the functionality, but it started with 7 Plus when you had 2 lenses. So portrait, you have to have more than 1 lens. So you're not able to do it. Sorry.
No workaround?
No workaround. No.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, okay. Wait a minute. I can shoot if I was shooting flowers before portrait. So when I go to focus on a flower, if I get as close as I can get and really focus on it, the background tends to drop away. Okay. So it does work if you can get a really close focus on something.
Thank you.
The next person is Arlene. And Natasha, can you raise your hand on the virtually, or else? I think maybe I can.
How do I raise it?
On participants. On the bottom of your screen, there's participants. and you click participants.
Look on the bottom of your computer screen, Natasha.
What kind of computer do you have, Natasha?
It's an Apple.
Okay.
Okay,
You
I
bottom
have
of your screen.
participants.
Click on participants and nothing happens.
And then you look for your name and you look
know,
at the bottom. It says invite, mute me, raise hand. Click raise hand
You see a little hand at the bottom of your screen, I think.
at participants. Here.
Do you see the list of names?
No? Oh, yes.
Okay, the list of names, and then down on the bottom, on the right-hand side on mine, it says
Oh,
raise.
right
okay,
here.
I see it. I see it.
Great.
Raise hand. So click raise hand. Okay, so we're at Arlene. Okay.
Yes,
Yes,
right, Arlene.
you sort of answered my question. I have an iPhone 6.
Mhm.
I'm about ready to upgrade, and I don't know how far to upgrade to
Yeah.
have a lot of the characteristics that you described. Can you suggest, do I go to the 13 and really splurge, or?
Well, so it's only up to 11 right now. So we're only at 11, and the 13 is the operating system. So all of you that have phones that are 6, I'm not sure that the 6 can do it. I have it in other notes and I don't have it in front of me, but somewhere right around there, you can't can you upgrade your operating system on your 6?
Well, no, that's why I need to get a new one.
Okay,
because,
right.
Quelda told me that I could not
Okay,
upgrade, and so
Yeah.
that's part of it. And while I'm getting a new one, I want to be able
Right.
to pick
so
through
6,
the
so it is 6S. 6S or 6S Plus is the oldest phone that can update to iOS operating system 13. And all these things that I showed, you really have to have that newer operating system. So I recommend that you look, the 11 is nice. You can also do the 10 or the 10R, but really to go, I think it's the least expensive of the 11s because they have 3 different 11s, and one of them is not the crazy $1,000 kind of phone. So, but the 10R, and I wasn't prepared. I should have been prepared to answer this better, but you need to look to see if it has 2. I would recommend having one that has at least 2 lenses.
2 lenses.
2 lenses. And I think the 10R is probably the most reasonable entry point right now. And I think it does portrait. So, but it doesn't have 2 lenses. But I would really recommend looking at the
Sure.
11.
Well, I obviously keep it a while, so
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank
and the
you.
11, I'm still shooting with a 7 Plus because that was a huge shift in technology to do the 7 Plus, and I have 2 lenses, and I'm getting ready to move because the 11 has enough new changes that I will be moving up, or maybe I'll wait till this fall and see what happens this fall.
Thank you.
Because I'm gonna get a new one. So okay, next person is Martha.
No, Edwina, I think.
Oh, Edwina. I'm sorry, Edwina. Edwina. Oh, you have to unmute, Edwina. I can't hear you. Or somebody asked.
I did unmute her.
Okay.
She muted. She was unmuted.
Okay, all right. Hi, Edwina.
No, she's. Well, let's go on to Martha, and we'll click again, Edwina, and you'll come back.
Hi.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
So the thing that drives me crazy in all of these is that I can never figure out how they sort your pictures or decide. It's a mess, and whether you can do it by date or by person or by whatever. I don't know what they're offering us.
Okay. Do you have an iPhone?
Oh yeah.
Okay, you have an iPhone because I can speak easier to iPhone. So quite honestly, I just have to reference my class because my class is set up to do an 1.5-hour class on taking a photograph, an 1.5-hour class on organizing your photographs, an 1.5-hour class on editing, and an 1.5-hour class on sharing and exporting and mailing and that kind of thing. So I spend an 1.5 hours go answering that question. So because the question that you're asking is really, it's important. It's important to understand. And I can tell you a few things quickly, and you can also go out on YouTube and try to find some direction with it. But in Photos, the Photos app, at the bottom, on the far left is Photos. And if you click there, you will go into an area where everything is sorted chronologically. It's chronologically.
Right.
And you can do years, months, days, and then all photos. And what they did in the fall is they changed that from showing all the photos to what they call a curated view. So that little instrument you're holding in your hand decides what photographs you get to look at. It's a curated view. And sometimes it's kind of good because
That's not fair.
I know, if you took 5 photographs of something, it decides which of the 5 to show you. If you, on that view, if you go all the way over to all photos, when you click all photos, you'll see all the photos in pure chronological view. So that's one way of looking at it. And then there's another For You tab, and that For You tab is all sorts of fun ways that they organize things. And you can search, you can put into there's a search function. I think it's there. I don't know. Can everybody see me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you see me? Okay, hold on.
We can choose this. If they go to the top and all choose speaker view, then they'll see you better, and they will always see each speaker.
So I don't know that this is good.
It's tough.
Yeah, it's kind of hard. I'm not sure that, no, you're not going to do it. So I'm just going to talk you through it, and I have it up so I can look at it. So if you want to pull up your iPhone and look at it, but the Photos is to the far left. For You is all sorts of curated different views. Then Albums is where there are some set albums that are created, and if you page down into that, you'll see media types. So it puts together all the videos, all the selfies, all the live photos. It puts everything together in those media, all the panoramas. So it does that for you. You can't delete those. They're just there permanently. People in Places, it groups people together. You have to train it. You have to go in and train it and make sure it's grouping the right people together. And Places is quite fun. It puts your photographs. If you have geotagging set on your phone, it will show you the photos. And then Shared Albums is something you can do with other people. But then in the top, My Albums. So Recents are all your photographs, but the way they're organized is the order that they come into your phone. So if somebody sends you a photograph on WhatsApp and it gets into your phone library, or if somebody emails you something and you save it there, or you scan something and you put it there, it will sort according to when it went into that Recents. It won't sort according to the age. So if you have an old photograph that you put in there, the date of that photograph will be when you put it in there.
Okay.
So just know that is organized based on when it came into the library. If you want it truly chronological, the date on the photo, you need to go over to that other at the bottom to the left. So from there, what I do, my practice is as I take photographs, I put a heart on the photograph and it goes into that album called Favorites.
Oh,
So I put a heart. So I pull out my curated. I put a heart on my photographs. It goes into favorites. Then I go like my Morocco trip. I look through all the favorites. I select all of them, and I create an album of Morocco. And those are my favorite photographs from Morocco. So, so I that's how I've been organizing it on my phone.
you're a genius.
There will be one more thing I add, but this is complicated. So if you go, so the way you add an album is
Yeah.
there's a little plus sign at the top. You
Right.
click that plus sign and it says new album or new shared album. So that's how you can do it. And you can select the photographs after that. And you can select the photographs from your favorites. Or you can also go into the favorites if the album's created, or you can create it a couple of different ways. You can create it from selecting and create it, or you can add in later to an already created album. But the trick I want to show you is, okay, you're sitting and looking at albums, my albums, there's something called See All. So I hope you see that. You see all. So that gets you into all of the albums that you've created.
Yeah.
And you know you're there because at the top of the screen it says My Albums, and there's a little caret and albums that goes to the left. So if you click that, you go back to where you were. So now you're in See All. You do Edit, and this is where you can delete albums, and you can also rename them. Okay.
Oh,
So
okay.
then the other thing you can do in Edit is the plus sign shows up there. And if you click the plus sign from that point, you get something called New Album or New Folder. So you can create a folder in your albums, and in the folder you can create albums.
We can create what?
You can create albums in a folder.
Oh boy. Okay.
So you can cluster your albums. So for
I got
example,
it. So it's like directories.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was my frustration with Apple, is that it didn't let me function in a PC way, in a personal computer way. So this is one of the ways to do that. And you can end up, I have a folder called Trips, and then I've put all my trip albums within that folder called Trips.
Oh, fabulous.
So I hope,
Yeah.
and if you go out looking for more information about this, it's creating folders in your iPhone Photos app. So there's instructions out there.
Okay.
The next
Thank
person
you.
is Ken Watson.
Okay, Ken.
Oh, let's see. I'm unmuted. I have a kind of a general camera question that may relate to iPhone. I recently bought a small video camera that had a feature I'd never encountered before. It has a dual sensor. In one mode, it's optimized for an ISO of 400, and the other mode of 3200, and it switches automatically at an ISO of 1200. Now, I can detect no noise at all in the mode at 3200, and the light sensitivity is amazing. Now, is this something which is common? I just have never encountered it before. Do the cell phone cameras have something like this for viewing in the dark? At 3200, it's like almost taking a picture at night.
Yeah. Well, the iPhone cameras, the iPhone cameras are pretty good, but I'm not sure that they'll do that level. That's pretty phenomenal. So I would just experiment with it, because one of the things, Ken, if you're interested in video, that is new since last fall from this upgrade, is that when you go into your videos, let me see here, let me bring up my videos. when you go into a video shot on your camera, you now have the ability to edit it. So you can do some color adjustment, you can do some cropping, you can do things editing your videos on your phone now that you didn't used to be able to do. But that ISO function, I would guess you can't get to that level on an iPhone. With using the native camera. But you know, you can put an app on an iPhone that has a camera app on it. So if you look for a video app to use an iPhone camera, you can change ISO. So because I use Lightroom mobile app on my phone, and I shoot raw images with my iPhone. And I can change the ISO. I can get the ISO pretty high. So you might look to see if there's a video app that you can access. Are you following? Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, it's not the iPhone. It's a new camera I bought.
It sounds like a fabulous new camera.
Yeah, it's a 6K camera, 6,000 resolution. But ordinarily, if you push the ISO up, you get very grainy, muddy looking pictures. This is actually optimized best at 3200 ISO.
That's amazing.
If you're in a dark room, it may you see the color is not very good in the dark. But the picture is fine.
That's great.
So,
Yeah. I don't know that you're going to be able to do that on an iPhone though. So.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right.
Next person is Inga.
Inga. Okay.
First of all, I want to say thank you. This is fascinating to learn more about what this cell camera can do. And when I saw your picture of the interior in your website, I was so taken by the composition. And I'd love to ask you about composition. I wonder if it's a self-portrait in the mirror, and all the things in the room are part of your self-portrait, including the gentleman in the. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it was
picture to tell a story.
Yes,
it was unbelievable to me.
Thank you.
The gentleman in the couch is.
Thank you.
Go ahead, please.
I did a series of photographs of that person who is my late husband who passed away nearly 2 years ago. And I spent a lot of time and energy taking photographs of him as we traveled. So, and I have taken a number of photographs where I've included myself in the photograph. So that was very much with purpose. I have some other examples of that, either in a mirror or like I have one photograph that my shoes are in the photograph, and I'm sort of there, but I'm not there. I'm taking the photograph. But I will say that photograph was not shot with an iPhone. That was shot with a digital camera. So the resolution
I
of that,
I understand that.
Yeah.
And I also, the focus or the sharpness, I don't know what the proper word is, but is amazing, even without enlarging it. As I enlarged it, it was breathtaking. And I'm curious about how you could get it that accurate with so many different distances from the camera.
Yeah, and that's using, you can do it with film, but it's using a digital camera. So I shot it with my Canon 6D Mark II, and that is the amazing part of using that camera. And that is more difficult to do with an iPhone until they get the megapixels, the sensor, to be more sensitive. But so thank you. And yeah, it's on the front of my website. I love that photograph. Yeah, thank you.
For those who have not seen it in our group today, could you put it on the screen for a minute?
Sure. Let's see here. Let me see how I can do it here. Just a second, I'm getting to it. Okay, so I come back to here and I share my screen. Can you see that?
Here it is. Yes.
Yes.
That's it, Inga.
Yeah. So this is, I also have part of my series of photographs of Hans is wherever we traveled, he got the New York Times. So I have many, many photographs of him reading the New York Times and the, the Jardin de Luxembourg in Paris and the, in a farmhouse in the Netherlands. Anyway, so I have that. But what happened was a couple of years ago, I bought him a cell phone and he switched to reading the news on the cell phone. And it's not as good as the paper. The paper was so much better for the photographs.
Yes, of course. Well, thank you for showing it. And
thank you for.
I was just so intrigued, but then I began to wonder what the story of your picture actually was.
Yeah.
Then of course, I see the portrait of yourself in the mirror.
Yep. It's thank you for seeing that. I really appreciate that.
Wonderful, wonderful picture. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the next
is Natasha.
Oh, Natasha. Good.
Kim, this was wonderful. I learned so much, but there's a problem. I never knew what all these buttons on my camera, and now I know, except that now I have forgotten. And so, is there a way for you to write down what each little button is for? I mean, or is that, can we find that somewhere? Because that was so useful. It was wonderful.
So I think this presentation is recorded, and Dorothy, are you going to put it someplace that somebody can go to it again?
No, that's not good enough. I don't want to look at the whole presentation to just get to what these buttons are. There must be a way to name these buttons so that we know what we're doing, isn't there?
Okay, I have one. I do have a screenshot from my class that I could give to Dorothy to send to all of you, or to post. I don't know what's the best way of doing this.
You can send it to me.
Should I put it up right now and you take a picture of it right
and
now?
Can we take a photo of it?
Yeah, hold on. Let me see if I can get it, because I do.
Can we print it?
I don't know.
Put it on screen and I can print it. No?
You can send it to me and I'll send it to everybody if you wish.
Oh, okay.
Well, hold on. I will.
That's good.
I will see if I can get. Hold on, because I think this is exactly what she'd like to have.
Yes. I need to remember.
So. So now I'm going to share the screen, and I'm going to go to this one, and I'm going to go here. How does that look?
Great.
Yeah.
This is not, so when you have a newer camera, these controls kind of disappear on you. You have to do, and when I get my new 11, I'll know better how to explain it. But all these controls still pretty much are the same way here, except they kind of hide themselves and then they go to the bottom, I think. But these are all the things that you control.
Great.
If you want to take a picture of that or screenshot or
Take a picture with your iPhone. or the screen.
Yeah, you can take a picture with your iPhone to the screen. That's exactly
Put it in
right.
the computer. You can print that.
Yeah. So did everybody get it?
I do them.
Can I go off? But that, yeah, that's all the stuff. I didn't talk about maybe everything, but I talked pretty much about all of it. Okay, I'm gonna leave it.
The next person is Faye Gersh.
Okay, Faye. Oh, you're muted.
We did it simultaneously. There we go.
Okay.
Where are these hour-and-a-half classes? And I suppose under these circumstances with the viruses, there are no hour-and-a-half classes. Is that right?
Exactly. I was in the middle. I taught 2 of them the beginning of March. I got my second one done before everything shut down. And so both Oasis and the Retirement Resource Center, I'm on hiatus. So on campus at UCSD, it's in the university's Retirement Resource Center. Suzanne Chaffee has me teach there.
Okay.
And it's open to anyone affiliated with the university, their alum, current staff, retired, support organization member. I mean, it's pretty open to, and SDIS is part of that.
Are you doing them online now, or?
No, I'm not.
No.
I haven't switched to online. I don't know if this goes on much longer, maybe I will, but I haven't yet.
Well, I extend an invitation if you want to try it through SDIS. We'll help you get going.
Okay. The question I have is, I was making too many albums. They were just becoming a long list of albums. And so because I do slideshows, I transferred the pictures right away to Keynote. Is there any problem with that? I mean, it seems to work for me, so I have all these keynotes instead of albums.
The only thing I would question is the image that you have, the resolution of it. If you ever want to do anything with it, do you have a smaller version of it that's saved in the Keynote? That would be the only question I would have, is the quality of the image you ended up with in the Keynote isn't the original. It's probably smaller.
Oh, interesting. I hadn't thought
So
about
I would
that.
be careful. I would be careful not to delete your originals or find some, keep your originals somehow, someplace. But for organizing, and as long as you know, you can always get to your photographs if you sort them chronologically, so you can find it again.
Mhm.
That's a trick which I haven't found out how to source them chronologically, but okay, good, thank you.
Okay, all right.
Would you put the screenshot again? Put the screenshot again. I didn't get it.
Okay, all right. Okay. Okay, you can, while it's up here, I can answer another question. So Dorothy, if you'll.
Yes, I think the next person, wait a sec, I've got to get to my participants again here. Next person is Sharon Beckus.
Okay, Sharon.
Yeah, hi, thanks. My question is, have you used any third parties for collages? And the reason I'm saying that is I'll go to someplace like Santa Barbara and I'll see this gorgeous building and they'll tell you all about it further away from the building to where I've got like a plaque. So I want to put the plaque information into the photo of the building. Have you found any collage apps?
Well, I haven't done any of that, so I haven't found any of it, but I don't have anything to recommend. But I know they're out there. I mean, I've had friends that have sent me really nice collages. But no, I don't have any recommendations, sorry.
Thank you.
Next.
Norman Olson.
Ah, hi Norm.
How you doing, Kim? It's nice seeing you.
Good, me too.
I've always liked your night shot of the train. Did you do anything special to take that?
So that is a good question because I did that quite a while ago, and I may have taken it into Lightroom and done some editing on it in Lightroom, to be quite honest, because I took it before the newest changes to editing on the iPhone. Or I may have taken it into Snapseed. So
Okay, I didn't know if it would be quite noisy or not, but it certainly doesn't look that on the screen.
no, and it wasn't, it was really pretty good. And so I did use, okay, so I think if I'm remembering correctly, when I shot it, and this is true with a lot of my night photographs, is that automatic focus, automatic exposure. I play with that, so I set the exposure. So I work with the exposure before I take the photograph. So I try to get that best exposure I can. So, and then I have it, and then I can further edit it when I get it. But I may have done some Lightroom. I don't know. I'd have to. I can look and tell you later.
I was actually more concerned with if you did anything special when you were shooting it.
And I think I recommend, because I do this a lot with my night photographs, is I really work with that sun, that automatic exposure.
Yeah, okay.
Or I go into an app like Lightroom mobile app where I shoot a raw image with my phone. So I'm actually shooting a bigger file, so there's more information there. So, but I don't think that's a raw, I think that's a JPEG. I think I shot it with the native camera.
Okay, well, thank you.
The next person is, let me see, I've got to get to the top of my list here. The next person is Timothy Hunt.
That's me.
Hi.
Hi, thank you for inviting me. This has been fascinating. I have a question. I have a very new Galaxy 10 Plus, which has a lot of lenses actually. And I'm curious what live focus is and what live focus video is.
So you have something called Live on a Galaxy. So that's an Android. That's a Samsung Android.
Yes.
And I wonder if they are following in the footsteps of iPhone to do the live, so it's a small little video. It's like a little video clip.
Okay.
And if that's what it is, then you can do that long exposure. There's probably some functionality on your phone where you can get a creamy photograph out of it, or you can create a video loop. So you can get a GIF file where something's continually cycling and you end up with a little video loop. You can do video loop or video bounce. That would be my guess. But I'm not familiar with the Galaxy, but that language sounds like that's what it is.
And they also have live focus video, separate from live focus.
I don't know. I don't know. I think it's definitely worth exploring. It sounds like it's fun.
Have spurred me to research my new camera.
I think it sounds really fun, whatever that is. I think you should.
Thank you.
The next person is Martha.
So, Kim, can you get us your slides?
So the slides that we just did. So that's a good question. So how can I do that, Dorothy? Yes, I can.
If you can send them to me and I can forward them, sure.
So, but there are people here today who aren't SDIS.
Right. You don't know my email.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to, there is a way to get a screenshot of the participants, but that doesn't give me your email addresses. So I don't know all of the participant email addresses.
If you want to receive, because I will give it to Dorothy. Dorothy can send it to you if you want it. So it's a PowerPoint presentation. So I can create it as a PDF and give it to Dorothy. And then put in your chat your email address to Dorothy.
Or Dorothy, do you have an email address you can tell us?
Yes, Dorothy L. It's the same address that gave you the link for this. It's DorothyLParker@gmail.com.
Okay, so
Easy
email
peasy.
Dorothy.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. I'll email to you.
Thank you.
Request.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
And anyone else who wants to do that, I'll send it to you. No problem.
Okay,
Thanks.
perfect. And I'll add the slide for Natasha that I had on the because that's not in my presentation, but I'll add it
Okay.
in.
And I think we have another question from Timothy here.
You do, just an observation that I don't think I'm a member, but I got an email from you, so maybe I am.
No.
You have my email because you sent me the invitation.
Yes, but I have, there were several affiliate groups of SDIS
Right.
that sent out the information.
Okay.
And so if you would send me, please, your to the email I just mentioned, it's the same one that gave you the link.
I will be happy to. Thank you.
Thank you. And that goes for everyone. Anyone who would like to get on the mailing list in a more direct way, just email me and I'll be happy to put you on the mailing list. Are there any more questions?
So just a plug for the future. If things go back to somewhat normalcy in the fall, I teach this class in November, this 4-week class in November. So I anticipate if I'm able to teach in person, I will be teaching at the Retirement Resource Center at UCSD in the fall, in November.
Are you sure it's open to all persons? I'm alumni.
Yeah, it's open to alumni. It's affiliated with the university. So it's pretty open. Support groups, alumni.
Usually Miss Chaffee does limit who can come.
This one, she and I work together on this. It's open to everyone. Now, if it maxes out, it's gotten close. I tend to limit it to 20. And the last one I taught was at 17, 18. So, but until it maxes out, it's pretty open.
Thank you.
This is through the Retirement Association, is it? It's through the Retirement
Yes,
Association?
yes, the Retirement Association, exactly. Natasha, you have a question? Natasha, you have a question?
Yes. Hello?
Yes, hi.
I am so stupid. I have the photo, it's on my iPhone, of all the points, and I don't know how to, I push send to me and it doesn't work. How do I send that so that I can print it? I'm sorry,
So,
I'm stupid.
no, that's okay. So this is good for everyone. It's something I teach. That when you go, so you're looking at the photo.
Yes.
And
yes.
At the bottom on the left, there's a little square with an arrow.
I did with the arrow. I pushed it. Nothing happened.
Okay, push that. And then it's at the top and it has a little check mark. And you can, if you have an Air printer near you, you can actually print from your phone.
How?
So you can go page down and till you see print. Page down, move it down and you see print, touch print, and see if it finds the printer that's in your office. Does it show up?
No.
Okay, so you don't have an Air printer, but then what you can do then is on mail.
I did, I mailed it and it didn't go.
And you put in but you had to put in your email address.
I did.
Did you put your email address in?
Dorothy, why don't you send it to me?
I will do that, no problem at all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay.
That solves it. She'll do it.
Okay. All right. Well,
that's no problem.
Okay. I think.
Well, I would like to. Let me see. I was trying to share screen, but I think I just didn't. Let me try again. So I wish to thank everybody, and we do have some more extra information on somewhere that I would share if I can find it.
Edwina had a question. Does she want to ask it now? I see that she's there.
I unmute Edwina. Okay, where's Edwina? Unmute. Okay, unmute her. I can't unmute you, Edwina. Let's see.
I don't know. Edwina should unmute herself. She should try it.
Okay, well,
Can't do it.
okay. So are we pretty much?
I think we're pretty
done?
much done, and I had a slide where I was going to show the link to your website and to the SDIS website, and it's on my computer and it's up, but it is, can't get it to show on my share screen for some reason. I think I'm going to eliminate a few more other things from my, I can't eliminate that. I'm going to eliminate this.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you, Kim. That was
Okay.
great. That
Thank you very much. I enjoyed it. This was good.
Yeah, thank you
I
very
love seeing all the
Thank you.
applause. That's nice.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm leaving.
Okay,
we'll see
yeah,
you
I
later.
think so. I can't find what I was going to share. So
Okay.
goodbye and thank you to everybody. This has
Thank
been
you.
really nice.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Okay,
Dorothy.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you to all participants. Thank you for coming, please.